Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our first edition of an Accenture augmented in its attendees Atlassian community event in our series. So this is being co-hosted by the Atlassian community in Brisbane, in Melbourne, in Pune, in Auckland and in Hyderabad. And we think maybe somewhere in Nigeria as well, but we haven't worked it out quite yet with things. So welcome to this lovely new opportunity and format. For those of you who didn't join the first one where we were talking to our friends at Multiplier, we're doing a series featuring interesting, relevant, super popular apps in the Atlassian space. And I'm super pleased to have Daniel here from Find Software, who make JXL and things, newly crowned as members of the Tech Fast 50, which I'm sure he will talk about as well. I will stop talking and hand over to Daniel to tell us all about the amazing products his company makes. Over to you, Daniel.
All right, can you hear me now? Yes. So actually what I should have asked you before, how much time do I have roughly? Again, half an hour-ish?
I gave you up to 45 minutes, but feel free to focus on the value, right? It's not about time at desk, it's about outputs, right? Outcomes, I should say, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm racing through a few slides just to tell you who I am, who we are, what we do, and so on. I'll keep that very short because it's slides are always boring, and then I'll jump into an actual demo. Or demo is also not the right word. That sounds very one way. I'm just going to walk you through the fundamentals and features and capabilities of our app, and you can just jump in at any time and ask questions because that's what we're here for. This can be fairly interactive. Now I'm going to share my screen. There we go. I believe you can see that now. There we go. So those are my slides. Cool. So there's an app for that. That's actually a title that a kid came up with, and I actually want to start with by thanking you, Kit, and everyone involved in organizing this. I think Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Auckland, and so on. That's big and that's awesome, and I love it. I love being here. A bit of background, that's me on the left and my co-founder Hannes on the right. We're both ex-Atlassians, so a combined 15 or so years at Atlassian. And when was it? Like 3 years ago in 2020, we left Atlassian and started JXL. So JXL is an app for Jira. This is roughly how it looks like. And we essentially thought, there's a lot of stuff missing in Jira. How can we best address that? And we thought like an app that's based sort of on a table view. And I'll walk you through what I mean by that. This whole thing started very, very quickly and with explosive growth. Kit just mentioned it. We are now not even 3 years into our story here, and are now listed in the Australian Tech Fast 50 Rising Stars list. We also got, this is also called Rising Star from Atlassian, some award. And we're one of the few, very few, I don't know, maybe even only apps that have a 4.0 out of 4 rating. So all our ratings are actually 4. Platinum now for a while. And, at the very beginning when we launched this, TechCrunch covered it, and that was very awesome. And we were very lucky that they did so, because then a lot of people, small teams, medium sort of size companies, but also massive, big enterprise grade sort of companies were made aware of the existence of our app and tried it, and then obviously never looked back and are using it ever since. So we got a big bump in the very beginning. And TechCrunch called this JXL turns Jira into spreadsheets. We actually, I know that a lot of people react to the term spreadsheet either by, they love spreadsheet or they hate it, and it's very polarizing. And the point here is it is not actually just a spreadsheet. It's a table view, yes, but what we do on top of that is really what this is about. The history is this though, like we thought, like, how can we address all sorts of like native functionality gaps in Jira, and then we thought, like, what's sort of the best platform for that? And you know that pretty much everyone out there is familiar with Excel, Google Sheets, Apple Numbers, and so on, apps like that. And more contemporary apps, sort of like Smartsheet, Airtable, Microsoft Lists, Google Tables. So those are all sort of list, tables, sheet sort of spreadsheet views. Asana, Monday, ClickUp, and also more in the software development, agile project management, and DevOps space. Things like Linear more recently, and GitHub, the issues feature in GitHub, they all have table views, Trello even. Now, also Jira apps, Jira products, Jira product discovery, Jira work management, they do have rudimentary, what they call list views, but that's sort of a bit of a different league than what we are talking about. So we thought, why in the end, what Hannes and I did at Atlassian is Hannes worked as an engineering manager and architect, and I worked in the end as the head of the Jira Cloud platform. So I was very much aware of like what sort of things people love about Jira, what they don't like too much, how they use it, and what they need. And a table view is certainly something where we thought like that's not something that should be missing in Jira. And by installing JXL, you get that table view. Pretty much as simple as that. What a table view can do for you, to summarize this, and then I wrap up these slides. Jira has a bunch of native, let's call that views. There's queues and boards and lists, like sort of filter lists and all sorts of like different views that are often fairly opinionated in how someone at Atlassian thought the world can use them. But that leads to certain use cases, fairly basic ones. Like imagine you're looking at a list of issues and you would just quickly want to assign 7 of them to you. You often find yourself opening them individually, clicking a bunch of times and then closing them and having a lot of tabs open and that sort of thing. That's not needed, shouldn't be needed. And so that's sort of why we went with a table. This is how we position ourselves. And you see the word spreadsheet is not like high up there. At this point, we're actually, and this is based on a lot of feedback and reviews and testimonials we get from our customers, it's simply called easier, faster Jira. Anything you do in Jira, you could be a small team, massive, large team practicing agile at scale, or and you could be coming from any industry really. It will make your life easier and save you lots of clicks and hours every day. So our customers come from a whole range of sort of different use cases, often within the same organization. There's obviously Agile, DevOps, ITSM, the stuff that Atlassian focuses on. And there's also manufacturing, production, and construction, and all that sort of thing. Like we have lots of automotive companies and companies that manufacture spaceships and all sorts of things like that, and product management and all sorts of more like less technical, more business sort of tasks like marketing, design, ops, legal, finance, and so on. The use cases we started to collect, this is absolutely not exhaustive, but you get the idea. It's people use it for anything. A table view is just something that is very familiar and approachable for pretty much everyone, and it helps with most processes. It's to just preempt a few questions quickly before I start with the demo. It's available, or it works with all Jira products, and it's available for all deployment options, including server. The server app you can't get through the Atlassian marketplace anymore, where you otherwise can obviously get a free trial. The server app, if you're still on server, you would need to get directly from us with our own licensing system, but that's also available. Also, just to preempt a few questions around this, it is very secure as it gets, because we don't store any data. We don't have a storage backend. This app works in cloud in a way, and in data center also. It does not reach out to anywhere. In cloud, it works in a way that you download static assets from a CDN and they talk to the REST API in Jira. Everything that's being stored, so issue and field data, obviously in Jira, but also some sheet metadata that I'll show you in a bit and you will know what I mean. That's also all stored in Jira, so that means you get data residency, disaster recovery, and all that from Jira, from Atlassian. And it's cloud fortified, and it's the most performant and scalable experience I think you will have in a third-party app, or in a first-party experience, to be honest. And that's sort of the quick pitch, and I don't want to keep going, patting ourselves on the back here. I will just go over and show you what this looks like. Looks like this. So you have installed the JXL app, and then you have a Sheets item in the sidebar here, or in in Jira Work Management in Cloud. At this point, I think the project navigation is horizontal, but you get the idea. In the project navigation, you have a Sheets item. Close that, and in a project you can have as many sheets as you like. So you can navigate through them, give them names, obviously. You can organize them in folders, you can star them for your personally relevant sheets and so on. And you can switch between them, have as many as you like. This is a program management sheet. And you can also give it optionally a description for like how this fits into your business processes or whatever other relevant information you would like the audience of this view to know. Now I'm going to start by editing this sheet up here. And you see, of course, it has a title. It has a what we call a sheet scope. So this is the issues that you want listed in the sheet. And this is a JQL statement. And even if you're not too familiar with JQL, a bit less tech savvy, this is very easy because of our composer bar here, which has always the right suggestions, but you can also just point it to a filter in Jira, like a saved existing filter. And then obviously your issues will be visualized as rows and your fields of these issues as columns. I shouldn't say fields, not only fields, any sort of data really, any issue related data. You can add this here and you will see how big this is. This is a fairly small Jira instance, but a lot of stuff, and that's because all your custom fields are supported. All the standard and system fields in Jira are supported. A lot of third-party custom fields are supported, and a lot of a steadily growing number of what we call smart columns. So those are things that are calculated and computed, and there are also stuff like last time some event was time since that happened, or number of this, and so on. Attachment size, or any sort of data that isn't normally displayed on an issue view. You will either find it here, or if you don't, just contact us right here, and we're very likely to make that happen pretty quickly. You can move this around. You can delete these. So this is what you see is what you get sort of experience. It's very simple. Cancel this because it was actually already how I wanted it. And so that's sort of what a sheet looks like. Now, let's work in that sheet. The first thing I want to do is just inline edit stuff. And this is very different from all these list views that Atlassian natively provides. So I can just do something here, and this is now changed. If I look at this here, you will see, excuse me, you will see that it's changed now. Obviously, that's nonsensical, so I don't want that actually. So what I'm going to do now is Command Z, and it's undone. And that's because, and you can see this here as well, undo, redo, copy, paste, all the keyboard shortcuts that you're used to in all sorts of applications, they work here. All different field types that are editable are inline editable here. So they have like bespoke editing UIs. Here's a color, swatch picker, a people picker. Those here are asset objects, date picker, and so on. So you can change them all. Now, the first jaw dropper it shouldn't actually be one because it's fairly basic, but it's not possible in Jira, is copy and pasting in bulk. So this has potential to completely replace the bulk editing experience in Jira. So let's say this issue is actually low priority, and I want these other ones to be low as well. So I just say, yeah, I can do that through the context menu, or you can just use the keyword and say Command C, mark this other stuff, and say Command V, and this is done now. And this was, I think, like 5 issues. You can do that with 500 or 5,000 or more. That works perfectly because of our orchestrated request management in the back. This is then managed with the Jira API so that it works away at this. You can also inline create like this. And then you can, now let's talk a little bit about how you can get to the perfect set of issues for your whatever your use case is. You can filter, right? So this is a text filter. This is a option filter. You can always change the filter type, not always, most of the time. And there's very powerful stuff happening here. So this is logical expressions, regular expressions, case matching, and so on. So the stuff that you can do here in terms of filtering is also something you can not do anywhere else in Jira. And it gets really deep. So this is one of my favorites, the date filter. So fixed is pretty obvious, like empty or not empty, and you optionally say from to, but you can also do a relative one, let's say, in a specific time period, in the past, open at any point in the past until 7 days in the future. And then I got that. There's a lot of very overdue stuff in here. The demo data is not the best, but you get the idea. So you can filter down very intricately to whatever it is you need. State the obvious, you can sort. You can also sort here via a order by clause in your JQL statement. You can sort by multiple fields. Otherwise, you can override that sorting with the sort column sorting feature here. And you can do stuff like freezing columns like this. You can, and this is, you can hide them and then save them in different views. I'll get to that in a sec. You can redact them. So if you're in a meeting and you're just quickly, need to obfuscate something, and all sorts of helpful little productivity enablers here. Now, I'm going to quickly walk you through these things here. Those are the more advanced features. And feel free to jump in now. This is usually the time where we get questions, but if there aren't any, that's also fine. But this gets very powerful now. I'll start with sum ups. So I'll add a sum up here. You see this, the entire table is now wrapped in a what we call a sum up row. So you see that the different values here are summed up, and you can, let's find a number field. So you can change the sum up style here and say, the usual stuff, arithmetic stuff like average, median, and other percentiles, min, max, and so on. Sum is the obvious one. And you can also do, and you've seen this here already, in statuses or other sort of progress relevant data. You can choose between a distribution bar, progress bar, totals, percentages, and so on. So I'll just change this so you see now there's percentages for the status categories. This is very helpful for reporting purposes, to state the obvious. I'm going to add a grouping now. Let's say group by assignee. And you see now that these issues ladder up, they roll up in terms of reporting. So this is the overall sum up, and those are the sum ups in each of the groupings. Now, different thing, I'm going to switch to a hierarchy. So switching on issue hierarchy, and I'm going to actually collapse everything here. You see what I'm doing. So now see I have the epics here. I have my base and standard issue types, and then I have my subtask issue types. So that's the out-of-the-box sort of Jira issue hierarchy. For larger, more bespoke Jira sites, this is not sufficient, and that's why you get what we call structures. And structures really are, and I've saved a bunch of them here, and I'm going to look at one of them now. So you see how that's configured. It brings together everything I just mentioned: sum-ups, groupings, hierarchy. So those are levels here that I've pre-created. So get rid of this. So every level is either a hierarchy, grouping, sum-up, or a grouping and a sum-up. So you see I have a grouping and a sum-up at the very top. Sorry, that's just a sum-up. And then I have hierarchy levels, and you see those are issue types. I have an objective issue type, a program issue type, and an initiative. So you see that what I'm doing here is a little bit of a planning / tracking / reporting use case for large agile bodies of work across an organization. If I edit this hierarchy level, I can add multiple issue types here, and also wildcards for issue types, issue type levels, I should say. And I can base, like I can indicate this should be, relating to its parent level by what sort of criterion. And in the default parent link, which is essentially just what Jira uses out of the box, which is the parent field or the parent link and epic link field, where you can also establish these relationships via issue link types or issue link descriptions, to be precise here. So you can do stuff like is child of, or whatever it is. Like if you want to visualize dependencies in a table, you use the depends, or like whatever you have configured in Jira, right? Now I'm going to switch this on. You see what's going on here. You now see how deep this gets. I'm going to do this again and collapse everything. You see that I've pulled in OKRs from a different project here, from the OKR project. So those are our OKRs. In there, we have programs. Remember the issue types. Let's actually make this a bit wider so you see what's happening here. And in there, you have initiatives. And let's keep opening this stuff. There's a project grouping now. It could be coming from multiple projects. In this case, it just comes from one Epic. And this goes all the way down to, given teams sort of scope of work. And that's sort of the gist of what you can do with structures, or one of the many things you can do with that. The last thing, or not actually quite yet the last, but the penultimate, I think, thing I want to talk about is conditional formatting. It's also something that is huge for many customers. So I'll edit a format here so you see what's happening. It does basically what it would do in Excel or Smartsheet or wherever you used to conditional formatting. I can apply the condition to a field or column, actually also to a field in that, so that the field doesn't have to be present as a column. I can apply that sort of to something that isn't even in the table. That's what I'm trying to say. I can tell it to format the entire table row or a particular column. And those are rules here. I can create lots of them, and they use the same filtering UX that I've showed you earlier. In this case, this is obviously a date filtering. You can do that with text and all sorts of other things. And then you can say pick between 100 colors for background and foreground. And if I switch this on, then you will see down here, this was based on dates. There's stuff happening. Switch on a few more. Unassigned warning. There you go. You have unassigned warnings now, or issue types. So this actually just says like all stories should be green, all epics should be purple, and so on. You can organize the order here, the sequence of these, because one is you need to be able to define which one is stronger than the others. You see this rule, for example, the unassigned rule is stronger than the issue type rule here, and so on. So this is awesome for all sorts of like overview and reporting, and also just issue tracking use cases. Now, one more thing, ranking. Let's switch on a ranking. Usually this just switches on immediately, but I have multiple global rank fields in my site here, so I can pick which one I want to use. So let's switch that on. I can now, you see I have these grip lines here on the row handles. I can mark a bunch of them, one or multiple, can drag them, can drop them, and now you know the appropriate global rank field is updated according to the new position, of course. All this stuff, like if I share this sheet now, let's say I copy this URL and send it to someone, or and so the recipient wouldn't necessarily see what I see. They would probably see more something like this, like a plain sheet, but I have actually done all the things that I just walked you through, and I want them to see exactly what I'm seeing. And that's how you do that, is you create a view. Okay, so a view, and I'm going to just, those are saved views that I already created in the past. So I'm going to open one of them called planning. And you see now immediately, you can see this down here as well, that there's freezing, filtering, formatting, structure, and so on. And so this is now what, if I copy this URL, or you know, I pick this view here and copy this URL, the recipient will see exactly what I'm seeing. This is sort of the gist of it. There's one last thing, maybe, you know, we're trying to have people not anymore have to sort of export or sync their data between Jira and work sort of with Jira in tandem with other apps like Excel or something, right? And or you know, Airtable. There's a bunch of very cumbersome use cases where Jira just gets to its limits, and people you know, swap over that data to some other spreadsheet sort of experience, and that shouldn't be necessary. If for some reason you still need this though, even though you have JXL going on, you can export your issues up here. So you can export that to all sorts of formats and open it somewhere else, or save it as a snapshot for your archive or whatever it is you need to do. And I think I just went through sort of the basics. I can show you a bunch of other use cases. You know, there's RISE prioritization to be a bit more you know, closer to what I think many of the attendees here would be doing. So you can, so this is something where I have an automation rule created, where the reach, the impact, the confidence, and the effort is computed into the RISE score. And then I've put a conditional formatting on that, so I see how attractive each of these things are for me. And that is just one of, like, we are struggling to actually find good use cases to demo, because it's so diverse. You can do whatever you doing in Jira. You're likely are quicker doing this with JXL or entirely in JXL. I want to stop rambling now, and that, because that was like sort of the fundamentals of the app, and see if there are any questions out there.
Hey, Daniel, Gaurav here. Great show. Just wanted to have a quick check on whether the tool supports other languages apart from English, specifically Japan and you know, the date currency formats in those regions, because a lot of work that we are seeing is emerging from there.
Yeah, great question. We are, as we speak, working on internationalization. That should be done in the next week, and then the localizations would come very quickly after that. Currently, the answer is English only, but what we will tackle immediately. So I'm hoping to see that in the next 2 months or so. You know, with the holidays and all, it's going to be tricky. But we're looking into German, Spanish first, and there's going to be Japanese, Portuguese, Korean, French, and so on. Yeah, the short answer is very soon. And you also mentioned actually things beyond language, you know, more like locale and like currency and so on. We have relevant features for that in the pipeline as well. So currently, you see, this is a simple number field. Actually, it's not. It's probably a select, but this is a number field. So this is how a number field looks like. We're working on you know, formatting options for certain field types where you can in this sheet, for the purposes of this sheet, put units. You can configure the decimal points and so on. So you can do all sorts of like locale specific content. And until then, dates, for example, are actually present, and everything, yeah, like your data sort of is presented in your locale actually. So this looks like this because I have probably English UK on, but in Japan this would be Japanese, and so on.
Great. And one just follow-up question, and just quickly realize this. Is there any option to control the sorting between the groups? Like within a particular epic, we seeing some story task and then a couple of other stories. Can we set up some kind of a rule to, you know, sort them in a certain order, like let's just say by progress or by some other attribute, so that they appear in a certain order?
Yes. So there are multiple things actually relevant here. So the order of issues in groupings, or if grouping is off, or at any point really, is determined by assuming I don't have sorting on. I do here. I have sorting on the RICE score here, right? And that's why this looks a bit sort of put together. But let's switch this off for a sec. Then this is the sorting here, order by, and what I'm doing here is ordering by the RICE score, ordering by sprint, and so on. So the short answer is, if you simply adjust the order by clause, this expression here determines how things are ordered in the table, and that's really that's simple.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Anyone else? Any use cases you're busy with where you're thinking like, could this help? Or because, you know, I'm likely to say yes, and I might have demo data for it. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm primarily focused on Japan market right now, and I'm seeing a lot of you know, resistance in using Jira in the way it is, right? And this is something that can be really handy, I believe, in that market, because they are used to working on Excel spreadsheets and creating WBS, the traditional WBS, etc. And this looks a lot like that, right? So having a tool like this set up there will allow at least the leadership team or people who are much more traditional and, you know, leveraging those kind of WBS based structure, or even the client account teams who are kind of used to using that, would be, I think, a great use case, right? And that's where internationalization would become a key to get acceptance there. And I would suggest you to focus on that market specifically. That would be from my own experience that I'm talking about.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's actually, I just pointed at a few logos here, NTT, Rakuten, and so on. Like, we have big Japanese customers already, but I can imagine, you know, some users there struggling with English a little bit. And yes, this is high up on our list. So the internationalization part is about to be finished, and then it's like everything we do, we have quite a quality standard. So I'm right now not sure like how long the localization part, so the actual translation, will take, because you know, I speak a bunch of languages where I can check. I don't speak Japanese or read or write any of the 3 character sets there, so that part will be just I'm not sure if that's going to take a month or 2 or 3, but we're on it. Like I hear you. That's totally exactly what we're seeing. Like we have a backlog of customers who say, actually, we'd like to roll this out at scale, but we need this localized. So that's why we're on it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we've got 2 questions from Sudeep. So firstly, I actually doubt these people exist, but I like the question. So Sudeep's question was, if you've got users who are familiar with Jira, but not with spreadsheets, what's the learning curve like? So I guess what's the learning curve like for JXL for source users is the first question. And then the second question was just about if you could talk about reporting and analytics capabilities, generating real-time insights for project management and things. So in any order you wish, Daniel, that's what we got there.
The first one, like, yeah, I agree. I'm not even sure how common this is. I think it's more common that, you know, you have someone who's really expert at Jira, but and you know, they might know what a spreadsheet is and have been working with it, but they might not be the biggest fans of it. You know, they might dislike spreadsheets or something. In general, what's happening here is I think I can say that without blushing. The experience here, user experience, is paramount for us. So things are intuitive. I think if everyone who hasn't lived under a rock for the past 10 to 40 years, where sort of table patterns were introduced in software, will understand this and get along with it. So, you know, things like filtering and sorting and like inline editing and, you know, rows and columns, everyone gets that. Where sometimes people, but this is actually not specific to these sort of people that you just described, but where sometimes people, you know, are still, like, I was just in the in that ITSM event here in Sydney. We had a booth there and we're sponsoring that, the Atlassian event, and there were a few people who I know are really big users of JXL, and they love it. And then I show them a few things and do this and that, and they still discover new stuff. So sometimes what's happening is these few subtle buttons up here that people don't actually know how powerful the features behind there are. So we don't want to put like big, our design philosophy is like, just give them, you know, what they need, the tool they need, and you can explore it. But that's sort of, you know, to wrap this up, that's sort of, I think everyone gets the table part, the features above the table here in the toolbar. Sometimes people, you know, are not brave enough to explore that or something. But, you know, in general, I think we can claim that we have extraordinarily good experience design, and it's just intuitive. People just understand it. Now I rambled so long that let me remember the second part. The second part was about reporting. Is there any particular reporting sort of, like, obviously this is reporting is a huge case. If you need to put charts and diagrams and so on top of this data, that's not something we're not there yet. So this you would just create your perfect table view, export that and put it in a spreadsheet tool and put a diagram on top there, or work with a different app here. But apart from that, you know, reporting use cases are a big and obvious one. There's a bunch of, like, if you're in the Agile and DevOps field, just as an example, there's a bunch of fields here that come from, you know, from, how do I find them now? Here, number of builds, pull requests, like all sorts of stuff that doesn't necessarily even come from Jira. It can come from Bitbucket or GitHub or somewhere. There's Atlas fields. There's all sorts of fields here that you could not natively in Jira put into context of your issue data, and this is very handy for reporting there as well. Yeah, hope that helped a bit. Reporting is a big use case. Otherwise, feel free to let me know if there's anything specific in that you want to report on.
That sounded pretty good to me, Daniel. I was just interpreting for Sudeep, or narrating for Sudeep, I should say. So I guess I was just attesting to Sudeep like how it's actually, I'm really pleased because it's one of the apps I've actually used at the Plug with people, and it was so useful in like loads of use cases. I was just interested whether you've seen any like fun, weird things that you were surprised by that you hadn't like anticipated your app being used for. So any sort of unique or special use cases which surprised you?
All the time, actually. I don't like from the top of my head have any like a really weird one, like I don't know, brewing or something like that. But this is actually one of the rewarding and fun. Like we work closely with a lot of customers, and like we work on this with customers really. That's why it's chock full of stuff that customers need, and we actually prioritize based on what people need, and we respond. Like if you have something you need, then you just you write us and we actually respond and that sort of thing, which is apparently something where people are surprised that we actually respond to feature requests. And so we work with them, and I see on their screens often what's happening, and these moments are actually very rewarding and nice and interesting when they do something that I didn't even have that idea that you could be doing that, like how they use it, I recently saw someone who had emoji all over the place, and or the first time I saw that people are actually assembling rockets and spaceships using this and tracking all sorts of vehicle data, and it's use cases are literally endless, and yeah, I'm always very surprised what JXL is used for out there.
I realized I was a terrible timekeeper, Daniel, and I didn't give you a warning. So we've finished our appointed time, but what a lovely thing to end on, thinking about space rockets being powered by areas there. So what I'll do, if people are running away, thank you for coming along, and huge thanks to Daniel. And we don't have Hannes here, but his hands are behind all the magic that Daniel's been showing as well. So huge thanks to JXL for presenting, and our biggest event yet locally on our virtual things, which is super. If you want to get in contact, here is the email on the screen. Let me just handily put up in the background with things. But we'll stop recording now for anyone that wants to kind of.
I want to quickly just say one thing very quickly. There is obviously a free trial. Just check it out. Just put it on a new Jira site for free. It's up for 10 users, up to 10 users for free forever. And just try it out. Get in touch if you need anything. If you